Alright guys, what is up? You are back for another video with DataZero. This is your daily outlook prediction for stocks. We're looking at AMC, GME, SPY, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency, the stock and crypto market. This video is not financial advice, should not be taken as such. Please do your own research and due diligence for buying any stock or crypto asset. With that being said, let's hop in the charts fact data showing you what's going on for the day and the rest of the week. So far we are on track with the weekly outlook prediction. I talked about everything yesterday in yesterday's video. We're going to be going over that and then show you guys what's moving on into the future. Just real quickly though, what's affecting the overall markets right now is tariff worries and rising bond yields, okay? We're going to be talking about this more in the SPY section, but this is definitely affecting everything. As you guys can see, the DXY, the dollar, actually popped up. Normally when this pops up, it brings things like SPY down and even crypto down, but Bitcoin being surprisingly resilient as it is a potential hedge against certain things coming up. So we're going to talk about that and more. Silver's been popping off, so let's go ahead and hop in and show you guys what's going on. Also, GME today getting a blast off candle to the upside. As you guys can see, GME pushing to the upside quite hard off of possible Roaring Kitty speculation, okay? There is some speculation around Roaring Kitty and potentially the fact that Bitcoin is up while the rest of the market is down, potentially helping GME out. Also a little bit of FOMO and stuff like that coming in from the meme stocks, which normally comes in from hype, especially when possibly Roaring Kitty's involved. You guys can see we got 4.46% gain here today, and we came back from the brink, ladies and gentlemen. I told you guys if we broke down out of this position here, it would be very, very bad because this is like a spring coiling up, getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And I told you guys we're going to pop one way or the other, and it's going to be a big move when we pop. These are hard to trade, these pennants, because they can break either way depending on which way you break. Somehow we were able to hold the key level of support, which I told you guys if we lost we would absolutely dump. We were able to bring it back from the brink, 2240, bounced off of that, got these buy orders here, and now we are pushing to the upside into these sell orders in heavy resistance here around 2345, 2330, all the way up to about 2350. Now if GME is able to break and hold 2350 tomorrow, not only will they have to potentially start hedging for calls because this is a short week, but that is a major level of support and resistance as well, which could send us up towards the gap fill on the daily time frame. And I told you guys once we broke out of this, that most likely this would send us to the gap fill, would give us enough momentum to do so, and it looks like that is potentially what is happening. We have this gap fill here at 2484 all the way to 2847, and then we have a second gap here as well. I believe what we're seeing here is GameStop potentially breaking out of this overall consolidation phase that we've been in ever since dropping down here in earnings. We found an overall bottom and we've made a nice floor here, and we are now going to push up into the gap fill and start filling the gap, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in order for us to do that, obviously we need to break and hold 2350. If we do that, you should see a pop to the upside towards 2450, and that is basically the last major support and resistance before we start getting into the gap. Once GME gets into the gap, it should be able to move a little bit more freely. There should be less resistance because it is a massive gap fill. So once we get past 2484, that's when you should see GME really start to pump, really start to run and move more freely with less resistance from the upside. So this is very, very good for GME. I'm actually very, very happy on what we've seen today. And it literally, I'm kidding you guys not, brought us back from the brink, ladies and gentlemen. We got the last point of support, and GME was able to bring us back. Now, just like I said in the weekly outlook and prediction, I told you guys that there was a potentiality for a little bit more downside before recovery. Unfortunately, we did hit that price target of 275 here on AMC, and we did see that 275 down to a low of 273 here today. Now, on the good side, you guys can see we're breaking above the sloping support and resistance. We have this overall downtrend from this 290 high, this local high here. We broke down. We now broke above it and used it as support. This is a good sign that AMC is actually bottoming, especially if GME is able to push up. That means most likely AMC will be able to push up with it, putting pressure on shorts from all sides, ladies and gentlemen. So I know right now people are very, very disappointed in AMC, especially with it lagging behind GME and GME getting such a nice day today. But I'm letting you guys know that GME pushing up can also help AMC get a little bit of a sympathy play. Plus, AMC as well is getting near that liquidity zone where I showed you guys every time we come down to these areas, we get these nice pop to the upside. You guys can see 273 here. We came down to about 275, 280 here. Got that nice pop to the upside. You guys can see we came down to about 270, 250 right here, around that range. 270, 250 consolidated, got this nice pop to the upside. And you guys can see if we go back in history throughout time, you guys can see ever since we've came down to these levels and we came down to about that 250 to 270 range, 280 around that range, we've been getting decent moves to the upside. You guys can see here another prime example is when we had this big move to the upside. We came down to the 238 and got a nice push to the upside. So things are looking decent here for AMC to actually potentially bottom, which I know people don't believe is possible, but I don't see us going much lower than $2.60 in my personal opinion. And I really think we found strong support here at that 275. And what I see here is most likely AMC is actually going to start moving up and potentially be able to even pull off a green week, especially if GME continues this overall uptrend, which as of right now looks very, very viable. If we go ahead and just pop on the alligator here to kind of see where momentum's at, what everything's looking at, you guys can see that we're starting to get a lot of bullish momentum here on the 4-hour time frame. Alligator spread very far apart, letting us know that we have a lot of momentum. Now RSI is getting hot. We want to be aware of that. RSI is hot on multiple time frames. The hourly time frame, we definitely want to be aware of that. We could definitely pull back a little bit, but that's fine. What I'm thinking, if we do see pullback, you'll probably see GME find support around $23.15 or $23. But I think if we did pull back to that, we would get a nice bounce up. I'm expecting a little bit of a drawdown tomorrow, finding support around $23.39 to $23.15, and then start pushing to the upside. And I'm expecting AMC to most likely move towards 280 tomorrow, maybe even as high as like 282. 285 once it's all said and done. But I'm actually expecting AMC and GME to have a green day tomorrow based off what I see here. So that's what I'm looking at for AMC and GME. Real quickly, some numbers to give you guys. We have 5.8 million short shares. Again, they are heavily manipulating these stocks, showing a desperation to keep it down. 0.45% cost to borrow. We want to see those cost to borrow levels go up. That way we don't have all of this short pressure. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, they are getting a ton of short shares. 6.2 million short shares here for GME at 0.4%. 42% cost to borrow here. We definitely want to see these cost to borrow levels go up. They've been shorting so much. But ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately right now they do have a large availability of shares. So this is what we're looking at for AMC and GME. I got another on the ground investigations for you guys coming as well. It's going to be dropping maybe this Friday, most likely next Friday, and make sure you guys check that out. But fundamentals are still looking good. I give you guys some Q3 predictions in that video, so make sure you check it out. Let's go ahead and move into SPY, the overall market, show you guys what's going on there, and then we'll move into BTC. So tomorrow we are going to be having JOLTS. JOLTS is a pretty big data drop. We're going to have that at 10 a.m. The biggest data drop is going to be here on Friday, unemployment. But tomorrow we have JOLTS at 10 a.m. So be ready for that. All right. So if the numbers come out higher than the previous, that could be bearish. And then if numbers come out lower than the previous, that could be potentially bullish. So make sure you guys keep an eye on that. Now, also, if you go ahead and look at SPY here, you guys can see SPY got this big push to the upside. I talked to you guys about this in the beginning of the video, ladies and gentlemen. SPY pulling back off of tariff worries. We watched the Trump meeting today as well, where he kind of talked about what was going on and how much investments we would be losing if the Supreme Court didn't allow these tariffs to go through. So that's adding a lot of uncertainty to the market right now, and the market doesn't really like uncertainty. And then obviously rising bond yields is also going to be very, very bearish for the market. So we saw an overall pullback, making a gap here for SPY. I was able to call the bottom here during the live stream and call several moves to the upside, including this top here, and then calling continuation to the upside, as you guys can see. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, because I do go live all the time giving out predictions and news as they do come available. But what we're looking at now is SPY is still in an overall uptrend. It has not broken it, all right? It will break it here during after hours, but most likely what you are going to see from SPY tomorrow is a little bit of gap to the upside. Now, be very, very careful if this does occur and SPY does gap to the upside as expected, because if it does gap to the upside, you're going to see it drop down very, very rapidly. In fact, what I'm expecting here is basically a gap up and then drop down here based off of the analysis that I'm seeing here for SPY. So don't be surprised if you do see SPY gap to the upside and drop down. Now, if SPY just consolidates here in after hours, if I am wrong about the gap up, I would expect SPY to find support around 640.01 or 638.86, but I am expecting SPY to push up before coming down. I talked about this in the weekly outlook and prediction that most likely SPY is going to see a pop to the upside and a snap down, giving it an overall red week. Basically, it's going to be flat most of all, but it's going to be very, very volatile because you're going to get this big rapid move up and then a correction to the downside. We want to be very, very careful right now because with this Trump tariff uncertainty, it is affecting the tech stocks. The tech stocks are the ones that would be getting some of these investments and some of these benefits if the tariffs were to go through. So this is why we saw such a drawdown on the NASDAQ today. When the NASDAQ pulls back, that is going to pull SPY back, but it made a massive gap and we have this V-shaped style recovery here. So there's a lot of indication here that we're going to see a continuation to the upside, most likely filling this gap and this gap, and SPY similarly filling this gap and this gap. SPY has a gap starting at 642.49 and goes all the way to the current price of 644.92. So I think that gap is going to potentially get filled tomorrow, even if we gap up like I'm showing you here and then drop down, filling the gap, finding a bottom and then continuing up, because we also have a small gap filled to the upside above this gap as well. That gap starts at 648.08 and ends at 648.55. So again, gap fills to the upside. It looks like the algorithm is going to try to push up, giving us a quick snap up and drop down. Be very, very careful because right now SPY did print a bearish doji candle here from last week, potentially signaling a topping tail. So we want to be very, very careful. But we do have these gap fills to the upside from the previous drop down from today. So that's going to give us a little bit of bullishness before we can head into more bearishness. So that's what we're looking at for SPY. Again, I'm expecting to hold 640.01 as support. As long as we don't lose 640.01, SPY will continue up. If SPY were to lose 640.01, it would dump down to 638.86. And if we lost that, you could see some major downside. But based off everything I'm seeing here, you're probably going to consolidate and push higher. RSI is pretty hot, so you do want to be aware of that as well. Once RSI starts to get frothy like this, you definitely want to keep your eye on things and take profit as quickly as possible. So this is what we're looking at for SPY. I'm expecting a gap up to slight consolidation tomorrow and then bullishness on SPY, possibly helping our meme stocks push up as well. Let's go ahead and move into BTC crypto and show you guys what's going on there, and then we will wrap up this video. So Bitcoin in particular getting a move to the upside. The rest of the crypto market didn't see as strong of move. Now, some people might be really confused on why this is, but I believe that this is because Bitcoin's fundamentals make it a hedge against certain events. You guys can see that Bitcoin was able to actually get back above this 109.5K level. Now, this could be a consolidation before we actually pull back down, but Bitcoin really looks like it wants to recover, ladies and gentlemen. And this is very, very strange because the fractal is calling for a potential pullback down to the liquidity zone of 105 to about 97K. Now, if we did do that, that would be a healthy pullback, flush out, and I think we would see a move up. But if Bitcoin is able to hold this 109.5K level, you are not going to see that drop down, okay? Now, if Bitcoin can continue up, I think it will bring the altcoins with it. Right now, we have a falling wedge pattern here on Ethereum. I'm actually getting ready to potentially buy some Ethereum here very, very soon. I'll let you guys know on the live stream when I'm buying and stuff like that. Of course, don't base your buys off of me. I'm doing this on a small account, just trading for fun and stuff like that. So make sure you guys make your own decisions. But I'm looking to scoop up some Ethereum for my personal portfolio as well, and potentially place a trade to build up a small account, which I'm sharing with you guys publicly. You guys can see right here we have this falling wedge here on Ethereum, which potentially says we're going to see a little bit more downside before recovery, but overall is bullish. Right now, Cardano ADA still looking good with this overall bull flag and macro prediction tracking. You guys can see we called for a little bit of pullback here, but basically we're going to consolidate and push up. So everything looks good basically to see what I was telling you guys, which is we see a little bit of flush out, which this could have been the flush out. We might see a little bit more downside in the long run, but we're still going to see an altcoin season. Altcoins are set up and primed and ready to pop, especially coins like Cardano ADA, Ethereum. They're looking good. XRP, you want to see back above $3. If XRP can break and hold $3, you could definitely see a nice move to the upside. Let's go ahead and just check out the XRP chart real quick, see if we can see anything, see if we got any patterns going on here. We definitely have a sloping support and resistance here that if we were able to break above, you could see a nice pop to the upside, so be aware of that. If you would see, again, XRP above $3, that would be breaking us above that sloping support and resistance where we could get a move up towards like 335 or even as high as 366. So again, key coins like XRP, Cardano ADA, Ethereum, ready to break out, ready to go, but you're still going to need BTC to either remain flat or continue up. Again, Bitcoin doesn't have to be ripping for altcoin season to come. Bitcoin could be flat, but you are going to need to see Bitcoin at least maintain its levels or push up. Right now, you guys can see Bitcoin dominance is at 56.6% and Ethereum dominance is at 13.3%. If it was an altcoin season, you would see Ethereum dominance more at like 15 and 20% and Bitcoin dominance more down to like 50 or 45%. So again, we're not in that altcoin season yet. And of course, crypto fear and greed. We actually did move down into the fear section a little bit here earlier, which I showed you guys in yesterday's video. We're moving into the more of the neutral section now. But again, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So if we did draw down, that would show us that it's a good buy zone. You can also see that there's buy orders for, again, like XRP, Bitcoin. Everyone's buying around these levels. And if it drops down any lower, people are even more eager to buy. So this is showing that crypto's not only building a strong floor, but it's a decent time that you could enter and still get some decent upside. So this is what we're looking at for the stock and crypto market. Cardano ADA is looking particularly good because it didn't make a new all-time high yet. So if you were to see like Ethereum push up towards 5K and XRP push up, Cardano ADA would most likely push up towards $3, and that gives it a nice bit of gains. If XRP was able to break and hold 366 and hold that as support, you could definitely see a push up towards 380, $4. Potential catalyst to see that as well is if the XRP ETF comes out. It needs to be a spot ETF. We do have some ETFs right now in the NASDAQ, but it has to be a spot ETF. And there is word on the street that this is in the works and potentially coming soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a big leg up on XRP if you do see that news drop. Be watching for the XRP ETF. But this is pretty much everything I have for you guys on the weekly outlook and prediction. If you found this video informative, please go ahead and drop a like. Subscribe for more content like this. If you're watching to the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. So people watching the end helps me out immensely. You guys can check out the merch store if you guys want to rock some merch. I appreciate you guys. I know some of you guys got the merch already, and I really appreciate that. And if you guys want to check me out live, I'd appreciate that as well. And as always, y'all, have fun, stay safe, make money. Peace out, fam.